What's up everyone, welcome to CPEdict. In this video we are going to look at the first 4 problems from the recent Codeforces Div 3 round 677. So let's get started. The first problem is called boring apartments. What the problem statement says is we have been given a building consisting of 10,000 apartments numbered from 1 to 10,000, and let's call an apartment boring if the number of that apartment consists the same digits. The digits can be 1, double 1, triple 1 and 4 times 1 and so on. So we need to go to that particular number one by one in a lexicographical order. That is, first we will call all the apartments consisting digits 1, double 1 and so on. Then we'll call all the apartments consisting of digits 2, then 3 and so on till we find the apartment which has been given, that is the x. Then we need to find out the total number of digits we press during the process, and we need to print out the same. So let's see how we can solve this. If you see, suppose we are our apartment number which we want to find out is this one, which is 4 times 1. First of all, we need to check this one. For that we need to press a key once. Then we'll check for this. We'll need to press the key for this 11 for 2 times. Then we'll check for this number, press the key 3 times, and when we have reached to this number, we will check it after we have entered this number, which consists 4 digits. So if you see, for check one to check one row, we need to press the key 10 times. So what we would be doing, suppose we have been given a number x, and if the first digit or the last digit as well starts from D, then we will find out how many rows are there which are prior to this particular row. So this can be simply find out. Suppose we find out the least significant digit of the number, which can be found out by x modulus 10, that is D. Then what we will be doing, we do D minus 1 into 10. It is equal to the number of pressed keys or key presses we have done to reach to that row. Suppose I am talking about this particular row, then this is equal to 2 into 10. So we press 20 keys to reach to this row. Then we'll check how many digits are there in that particular number. If there are 3 digits in x, then we would have pressed the key 6 times, 1 for this, 2 for this, 3 for this and 4 for this. If the number of digits in our number x is 2, then we would have pressed the key 10 times for this particular row. We have calculated the number of key presses for all the rows prior to this one, so it is equal to the number of digits. Suppose there are number of digits in our apartment, then it is equal to the summation of first n digits numbers. For 4 digits, it would be equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. This is for the current row, and for previous rows we have already found the number of key presses. Let's see the code now. Yes, this is the least significant digit of my number. I subtract 1 from this and multiply 10 to find out all the key presses for the rows prior to my current row. Then I find the number of digits present in my number. Then I simply find the number of key presses I require to get to that number on that particular row, which is equal to count into count plus 1 divided by 2. Then I'm just printing the answer. Let's see the second problem. It is called yet another bookshelf. So we have been given a bookshelf which can fit n books, and if a particular bookshelf is containing a book, then that value of array, we have been given an array of size n, the value would be 1. If that position is empty, then the value of our array element would be 0. What we need to do is we can perform 2 types of operations. Suppose we have a continuous block of ones in this particular index, where the range starts from index L and ends at index R. We can move that whole range to one to the right side if the element which is just to the right of it is 0, and obviously we have some space on the right side of that particular element. That is, if we are moving a consecutive block of ones, either it should have a 0 on the right side of it. Yeah, this is the necessary condition. Like, it cannot be this particular digit, the rightmost one cannot be the last digit of our bookshelf or last element, otherwise we cannot shift it to right. Similarly, the other operation which we can perform is we can move a continuous block of ones to its left. Again, there must be 0 just to the left of this continuous block, or in other words, this leftmost one should not be the first element of our array. We need to find out the minimum number of moves we require to collect all the books on the shelf as a contiguous or consecutive segments. That is, all the books should be present contiguously. Yes, let's see what we can do to solve this problem. Suppose we have been given a bookshelf. Let's take this example: 0 0 1 0 1 0 1. Yes. So as we need to move all the bookshelves to one particular place, we have two endpoints. Suppose this is the leftmost one we are having, that is the leftmost book in our bookshelf, and this is the rightmost book in our bookshelf. In between we might have few bookshelves, and we might have few empty spaces. So what we can do is, either we can shift all the bookshelves to the leftmost point, that is this point, or we can shift all the books to the rightmost endpoint or the right endpoint, which is this point, because at the end these all should be contiguous. And for a contiguous block, to move the one contiguous block by one cell, we need only one operation. So if you see, now the answer is just the number of zeros present in between this range. That is, what we do is we first simply find out the leftmost one we are having, and we find out the rightmost one we are having in our array, and then we need to find out the number of zeros in between this range, because we can shift all these and we only require number of zeros, number of operations. How is it so? Let's take another example. Let's take this example: 5 1 1 0 0 1. Leftmost one is at this index and the rightmost one is at this index. So either we need to move all the ones to right or all the ones to the left. Suppose we are moving all the ones to the right, so we can do it using two operations. We can move this contiguous block by 2 units in 2 operations, or we can move this lonely one to left of it by 2 units or 2 places. It requires only 2 operations. And if we see the last example here as well, you can see there is only 1 0 in between the leftmost one and the rightmost one, so answer is 1. So that's all for this question. Let's see the code now. Yeah, first what I'm doing is I'm using 2 pointers, I and j. I is initially initialized to 0 and j is initialized to the last index of my array. I increment my I till I'm getting a range of zeros, a continuous block of zeros. The time I get the first one, I simply break out of the loop, and here again in the second loop I'm moving from right to left, finding out the rightmost one in my array. This above for while loop was for the leftmost one. Then I'm just looping in between that particular range, and I'm finding out the number of zeros I'm having in that particular range. Whenever I see array I is equal to 0, I increment this. At the end I'm just printing out the answer. That's all for this problem. Let's see problem C now. It is called dominant piranha. So what it says is, there are n piranhas with sizes a1, a2 and an in the aquarium, and it's left to right, and we need to find out if there is a dominant piranha in the aquarium. aquarium, the piranha is called dominant if it can eat all the piranhas in the aquarium except itself, of course. And we need to find out if there is any dominant piranha in the array or not. If there is no dominant piranha, we need to print -1, otherwise we just need to print the index of that particular piranha. There can be more than one answer. And yes, how we can find out whether it's dominant one or not? If a particular piranha eats all the fishes or all the other piranhas, it can be termed as dominant. And if we see, if two piranhas are adjacent to each other and piranha at index I is having a greater size, is larger than the piranha which is present at index I-1, then it can simply eat that particular piranha, and after eating one piranha, the piranha which ate the other one, the size of that particular piranha will be increased by 1 unit. Similarly, if the piranha which is just to the right of the current piranha, if the size of our current piranha is greater than the piranha which is just to the right of it, then it can eat that also. So yes, they have given this example 5 3 4 4 4 1. First, what they did was they used this index. It ate the piranha having a size of 3. Then the size of this piranha increases by 1, so it becomes a 5. Then this piranha at index 2, we are using 1 based indexing. It eats the piranha at index 3. Then we are left with these piranhas. Then the middle piranha can eat either the left piranha or the right piranhas. Let's say it is eating the left one, then we are left with these two piranhas, and at the end this leftmost piranha eats the rightmost one. Let's see how we can solve this problem. So we have been given the sizes of piranhas. You see, the piranha at index AI can only eat a piranha at its the piranha which is to the right of it if AI is greater than AI plus 1. Similarly, if AI is greater than A minus 1, it can eat that as well. And we need to find out if we have a dominant piranha or not. Let's see the case when we cannot have a dominant piranha, which is only the case when all the AIs are equal. Only in this case there will be no dominant piranha, so we will be printing -1 in this case, because as all the values are equal, if you pick any piranha out of our aquarium, it cannot eat any other piranha, as all of them are having the same size. Yeah, in all the other cases, how we can solve this problem is, as all AIs are not equal, we'll simply find out the max of AI. So this is the maximum size a piranha can have in our aquarium, the maximum size piranha. Again, there can be multiple of those as well. We can have, suppose the size of a piranha, which is the maximum size of a piranha in our aquarium is 5. So there can be maximum piranha, there can be more than one piranha of size 5 in our aquarium. We need to find out a particular piranha who's having a piranha of a lesser size, either to its left side or to its right side. So what we would be doing, first of all, we will find out the max of AIs. Let's call it max. Then we will traverse our array or A1, A2. We'll find out a particular index where AI is equal to max. It means the current piranha is having the largest size it can have in our aquarium, and either the piranha which is to the left of it is having a smaller size than the current one, or the piranha which is to the right of it is having a smaller size to our current piranha. So these two conditions must be satisfied. First of all, this is a must. The piranha at the index I should be the largest one, and it should be able to eat at least one piranha, either to the left of it or to the right of it, and we can check that by using this condition. So if you see, if we have found out such piranha, if this condition is met, then we will be able to, that particular piranha will be able to eat all the piranhas, because then the AI, after eating a particular piranha, AI will become AI plus 1. and there is no other value in our array which is having a value ai plus 1, and then it can eat the piranha which is to the left of it or to the right of it, because it is having the largest value in the aquarium. Okay, let's take an example. Suppose yes, I'm talking about the last one. I'm having 5 piranhas in my aquarium. The sizes are 5, 4, 3, 5, 5. First I check whether all the sizes are equal or not. I see they are not equal, so yes, we can have a dominant piranha in our aquarium. Then we'll be find out the max. We'll see the max is equal to 5. Then we'll find out one particular index where the current value is 5 and the value which is to the left of it or to the right of it is having a value lesser than 5. So we traverse from left, we see that yes, this is 5 and the value which is to the right of it is not equal to 5. So this would be a dominant piranha. How it would be dominant? It eats this one. Now the size becomes 6. Now there cannot be any other piranha in our aquarium which is having a size 6. Now it can eat any piranha. That's why we use that logic. So after eating this 4, it can eat this, then the size will become 7. After eating it will become 8. After eating it will become 9. Let's take one more example. Yeah, let's take this one. 44344. 44344. We see all the values are not equal, so we can have a dominant piranha. We find out the max, which is equal to 4. Now we move from left to right. We see for this particular piranha, we cannot set this to a dominant one because it is having a piranha which is having the same size to the right of it. It cannot eat any other piranha. So we move ahead with our search. We see this one. We see that this is having a piranha which is a smaller size piranha to the right of it. So this would be the dominant one. This can be one of the dominant ones in our aquarium because it can eat this one. Now its size will become 5, and after becoming a piranha of size 5, we would be sure that it is having the largest size in our aquarium. So it can, at this point, it can eat any piranha. That's all for this question. Let's see the code now. You have taken the input and I've checked whether all the values are equal or not. Initially, this is basically a flag EQ, which signifies equal. Initially, I say that all the values are equal, and this is max. I'm finding out the max of all the AIs. I check whether the adjacent values are equal or not. If they are not equal, I'm simply updating my equal at 0 because I found a place where the values are not equal. And meanwhile, I'm also finding out the max. At the end, after I've traversed the whole area, I see if equal is still equal to 1, then all the values must be equal. I'm printing out -1 in this case. Otherwise, we can have a dominant piranha in all other cases. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm traversing my whole array from index 0 to n. I'm checking whether the value of my current piranha or the size of my current piranha is equal to max, and I need to find out one adjacent piranha which is having a value lesser than max, or basically not equal to max, because max is the greater one. So that is what I'm doing. This is for when I'm talking about the first piranha of my aquarium. This is for the case when I'm talking about the last piranha of my aquarium, and this is for all the piranhas which are in between the two endpoints. Yeah, I'm just simply printing out the index of that particular dominant piranha. That's all for this question. Now let's see the next one. The problem D is called districts connections. There are n districts in the town. Our this district belongs to 8th bandit gang. Initially, no districts are connected to each other. As we are the mayor of the city, we need to build n-1 two-ways roads. Basically, we need to connect all those n towns by n-1 roads. We need to convert it into a tree, and we can only add an edge between two nodes if the values of those two particular nodes are not equal. In other words, what it says is two districts belonging to the same gang are not connected directly with the road. If they are connected directly with the road, this gang will revolt. We cannot have an edge between two nodes having the same value in technical terms, or when we are talking technically in terms of the problem, or we need to connect all the districts which are having a different gangs, in which, yeah. and if we are able to find out a particular arrangement, then we need to print all the n-1 rows we can have, and if there is no way, we need to print no. Yeah, let's see how we can solve this problem. How I solved it was, as I've been given the values of my AI, that is the gangs, which are gangs belonging to a particular district. So I first sorted them according to their value. Let's say I'm talking about this case, the first example, 12213, 122. Let's not pick the example given in the question. Let's pick a random example. So let's pick, suppose we have been given an array which is consisting the values, these values, right? So we are having 3 3 8 districts. We need to find out 7 roads if we can. How I solved it was, yes, I first sorted these values. Then after sorting them, I see that we cannot have an edge between this group, because these are having the same values, or the gangs which are present in these districts are same. So what I did was, for the first group, the nodes having the least value, I attached each of them to the first district of the next greater value. So I created a node, not the node, I created an edge from all these first, or like all these districts which are having the same value and are the least value in our array. I connected all of those with the first value of the next greater gang. So these are the 3 edges. Now for all other edges, for all other nodes, what I simply did was, I picked this first node and I connected this to all the other edges. As you can see, the edges I am connected there is no edge which is connected to the same value, and the number of edges I have added is 7. So that is the thing which I have done. Let's take an example. Let's take this example, 12213. So 12213. So first I sorted them, and yes, I'm also maintaining the index of these, because at the end we need to print the index. So first I put them into a vector of pairs, where the first is the value, first value is the value itself, and second is the index. Then the values are like this, 1 4 and 3 5. Now converted this array into vector of pairs. This is the value itself and this is the index. Now I sorted them according to value. After sorting them according to value, and if the values are same, then they are sorted according to the index. First we see the first value, first column, and then we see the second column. So after sorting them, the values will become 1, 1, 1, 4, 2, 2, and 2, 3, and 3, 5. So now these are sorted. Now what I did, first of all, I pick the first range, the consecutive batch of nodes which are having the same value and having the least value. I pick them one by one and connect all of those to the first node of the next greater gang. So these are the first 2 nodes. Then for all the other nodes, I attach them with my first node. So these are the 4 edges I would be having in this. And to find out the index of my nodes, I use the second value which is present in my vector of pairs. So that's how we can arrange them. And the case where we cannot have such arrangement is the only case where all the AIs are equal. In this case, we cannot have a tree, or we cannot connect those nodes such that all are connected as n is greater than equal to 2 as well. So this is the only case when the answer would be no, because we cannot have even a single edge. Suppose the values are 1 1 1, we cannot have even one edge because the values are all same. In all other cases we can use this approach. So let's see the code now. First of all, again, similar to the problem C, I am initializing this flag eq as 1, which tells me whether till this point all the values are equal. I traverse my array. The point where I see the adjacent values are not equal, I update it and simply break out the loop. After traversing all of it, if eq is still equal to 1, it means all the values are same. Then I need to print no, as there is no way I can arrange them into a connected tree. A tree is always connected, you can say connected graph. Otherwise, what I did was I pushed all the values. This is the gang value and this is the index of that particular district. Then I sort them first, which is first according to value, then according to index. Then yes, this is for the point I reached to the first node, to reach the first node of second smallest AI in our array. For in this example, to reach to this node, which is the first node of the second smallest gang value, I'm using this loop. So till I see the first values are equal, I keep incrementing my I. So yes, now I would be pointing to this. Now I is here. Now what I have done is I initialize another loop which goes from 0 to this point. So you see j is from 0 to I, and I put an edge between all of these nodes to this node which is pointed by I. So you see ci node j dot s for the second value of my pair, which is containing the index, and I'm connecting that to node I. And after doing all of this, for all these nodes, I'm connected all these nodes to the first node of my array. So this index starts from I plus 1, this which I'm encircling. Now I go from I plus 1 to n, and I attach all of those with my first node of the array. Yes, that's all for this problem. I hope you liked it, and if you learned something from this video, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and consider subscribing to our channel. I'll see you in the next video where I would be explaining the next two problems of this context, that are the problem E and F. Till then, take care, sayonara.